I got a question on the prenup aspect.
Yep.
I've seen discussions all the time where people say prenups don't work. They always fail, blah, 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 blah. It's because the person wrote the prenup on a napkin or whatever. But I saw a clip from a lawyer that said if you do prenup well in advance of when you get married, you have a lawyer write up the prenup with, I guess, your terms and conditions. The other party, she has her own attorney review that document, and then they both sign off on it. That type of prenup is more likely to go in your favor versus if you do a prenup, 2 months before the wedding. She doesn't have an attorney, but she signs it because she's under duress or whatever, just signed it. Or what. Like, there's more excuses for them not to abide to that. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if you have an attorney and then she hires an attorney and they review it and they approve it, then that prenup is as strong as that contract, essentially. Correct?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. I think all the elements you just outlined are exactly what I would advise a client. The only thing I would maybe, and it's not even adding to it, it would just be kind of underscoring something. In Virginia, prenups are not favored, but they're enforceable, right? So that means a court is going to strictly construe the terms of the agreement. They're going to be very careful at saying, this is what you agreed to, we're going to hold you to that. And we want to make sure you've got independent counsel for husband and wife or spouses, right? Separate spouses have a separate counsel. And there was enough time, you said like 2 months. Under Virginia law.
Like if you did it like 6 months before versus 2 months.
So that's a good point. The longer it's done in advance of the actual wedding, the more enforceable it tends to be. There is no code section that says it shall be 30 days, it shall be 60 days or more. But I do understand that the case laws, case law in Virginia in particular, they want to see the prenup done at least 30 days before the wedding, which is pretty tight. If I have a client calling me and they want to do it in 2 weeks, I'm going to say no, because it's, that sounds like it's under duress. It sounds like a shotgun prenup.
Yeah,
thing,
not gonna turn out well. That's like the How I Met Your Mother episode, right? About the prenup, and it's a stack this big.
Yeah,
right. The week before the wedding.
Yeah, don't do that. And I have had clients come to me and say, I just want you to represent us both. The wife's okay with it. She's not. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to be a dual rep here, because I don't want to build you a prenup that's likely to get, take pot shots at this. So I won't work with a prenup client unless they agree that there will be other counsel for the spouse. So to everything you just outlined, all the elements you said about enforceability of prenups is right on.
Yeah, because I had a buddy of mine who got a divorce, and he never got a prenup. Granted, when they got married, they were both dirt poor. Mm-hmm. This is Gonzalo I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He blew up in sales, and the company he was working for made a ton of money. Bought like 5 pieces of real estate, or 6 pieces of real estate, and they lived in one. He got in a divorce. He didn't have a prenup, and she got 2/3 of all the houses. He got to keep the more expensive ones, but I think it was just more of a value. She got more of like the lower costs and rentals, but she did nothing. She just worked from home. But if he would have got a prenup later, it wouldn't have mattered anyways, because all that was made when they got married, and he didn't have one. And that essentially in that aspect, his assets aren't protected.
So it's from the date of like when that's being made, right? So if the assets are already, the wealth has already been generated, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't retroactively apply
Right.
that.
Yeah, you can't do that. Once it's marital property, it's marital property.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that soccer player? That young soccer player who married that one 30-year-old lady, and he made millions of dollars, but they ended up getting a divorce, and she was thinking she was going to get half his income, but it come to realize that he put all his assets under his mom's name, and now she has to pay alimony to him.
Is that right?
Because this guy's made millions upon millions of dollars, but it's all under his mom's name.
Interesting.
Like the paycheck, like his mom gives him money whenever he needs stuff. He just does.
That's crazy.
That's a good asset protection strategy.
And people were calling this guy brilliant. What's also crazy because he got married to her when he was 18 and she's like 30.
Yeah.
So, but now she's like trying to supposedly cash in or whatever.
Yeah.
But the lawyer's like, there's nothing. This isn't like Spain or something, but like, there's nothing we can do because it's
it's
not
here.
and I think I'm kind of like of the opinion that I think it's good that the conversation around prenups is changing a little bit, right? Especially for like business owners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you think about what people don't realize is if a business has multiple partners, right, and then that partner dies, the spouse now becomes, if there's no prenup arrangement, becomes that partner.
And
right?
that could, like, well, for instance,
Yeah.
you guys are partners in this business.
Well, I had a situation of literally just like that happen. So at my business Stratos, my buddy Gons was part owner. He owned almost half of that business.
Yeah.
And she knew about the business and all that stuff, and they were getting divorced. This was on the tail end of the business. We had some trouble at this point in time. They're getting divorced, and she started asking him about the assets of this business because technically she owns, I think it would have been 22% of that business because he owned 44%. And he just told her, he's like, yeah, it's doing crappy and it has no money, and she believed him. And then their lawyers or whatever didn't go after it. And we definitely had money.
Yeah.
But the problem is that now we would have to buy her out because now she has 22% votership rights and all that stuff. Granted, it didn't happen. She just called it as a loss. Whatever. I don't want it. Just went after his houses. But should a business, back to almost kind of what he is, should a business owner, you require, if we're both in business, we're both not married. But if he does decide to get married, because I did this with Cody, to prevent stuff like that, I think you're required to get a prenup to protect the business as itself.
And also how does a buy-sell agreement impact that too, right? Because I think there's some degree of protection there also. I'm not 100% sure on that. But
yeah, I mean, you guys are asking the right questions. So James, to your point, instead of a prenup being the preferred document to deal with business interests in the event of a partner dying or becoming disabled, it's the buy-sell that I'm going to recommend, right? Yeah. The buy-sell has nothing to do with the spouse, frankly. It's an agreement among the business owners. It's an agreement among you guys as business owners. Yeah. And what you're going to stipulate is you're going to say, if I go out of the business, either voluntarily or involuntarily, Ryan must buy my interest, right? We're going to try to we're going to restrict transfers of interest to work with people we want to work with. Yeah. So I oftentimes will see these buy-sell agreements to be what are called redemption agreements, meaning that if you go out of the business, Ryan must buy. Yep. So he's going to buy your interest, and he's going to pay off your estate. And
my spouse would, essentially get compensated for that.
Yes, and you're going to hopefully have a disability policy in effect, or you're going to have a life insurance policy in effect, so he has the liquidity he needs to buy out your spouse. She is not going to be a party to this business. That's what we want to do. Yeah. The prenup is really just the icing on the cake there that you can do your own stuff. I don't want to use a prenup and have my wife have to agree to what I'm doing at my business level. I'm going to do that with my business partners, and we're probably going to do a redemption or a so-called cross-purchase agreement where you're each getting life insurance policies on each other, so you're containing the risk within the business interest itself.
Yeah, I think that's how we're set up, right, in that case. So I just think it's interesting to me. I mean, there was recently, I think it was maybe the owner of the Dodgers or the owner of an LA team who they didn't have any kind of thing set up, right? And so he's getting divorced. He's a billionaire,
oh my
right?
God.
And how do you not have on a massive billion-dollar franchise?
Love.
It's just ridiculous.
Just love. It was never going to go wrong.
It's
Nobody's going to die.
And he was probably 85 and she was probably 25, right?
Dear.
And and it's I don't understand how an organization that size doesn't have
Al
basic
Pacino's
due
89 is
diligence.
having a child.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I did. I saw that. I mean, James, to your point. I mean, and I may not don't quote me chapter and verse on this, but I think it's as high as 60% of folks don't have a written estate plan at all.
Yeah.
So, and think about it. Those people who are those high performers or business owners, they're running their business. They don't want to think about death and death planning. So on the one hand, you're shocked that someone with that much wealth and complexity wouldn't have a plan. Yeah. But it really doesn't strike me as that unusual because people just want to put that off. That's the ultimate thing we're going to procrastinate on is what happens when I die.
Yeah, they're like, I'm never going to die.
I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Right?
The company Roku had all its money and assets in Silicon Valley Bank.
Oh yeah.
$400 million in one bank account, which is not FDIC insured.
Yeah.
It is now after what they did, but your entire operating expenses for a multi-billion-dollar company is in one account.
Also, it's just in that instance too, it was wildly what am I looking for? Unprofessional and or stupid, right? To have that much liquidity.
Fire
just,
that CFO.
Just open, right?
Fire that
isn't-
CFO.
Like you don't need that much working capital at any given time, right? So
Right.
Invest in something.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow,
that's
I didn't know
wild.
that. I didn't know that story. Wow.
400 million in
Yeah.
one account.
Yeah,
Mm-mm,
it's
no.
crazy.
Like imagine
Crazy.
opening your bank account. I got 400 million on my app.
Just there's not enough space for the zeros in
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I gotta
Wow.
turn my phone sideways so I can
It's
see
a
all the
portrait.
zeros.
That's exactly right.